And welcome for those who are just tuning in. My name's Rod. This is the very first NDE, OBE, Paranormal open line that I'm doing for the Untethered Consciousness channel. We started in March, so it's still early days yet. We've had a few interesting guests on. So when I say NDE, I mean near-death experience. When I say OBE, I mean out-of-body experience, and paranormal covers pretty much anything else psychic, stuff to do with visitations, etc. So I'm going to run things a little differently today than what I originally planned, because I did have Nicky Allen, the psychic from the UK, very famous and very funny lady. Unfortunately, her dog has passed away, so we've had to cancel the live stream with her today. And our heart goes out to Nicky as well, because we all know what it's like losing your pet. Sometimes arguably worse than losing an actual family loved one as well. So instead, we're going to do something a little different, which is give the opportunity for people to drop in. So the link to join the studio queue is right there in the live stream. So it's bit.ly/UC230510. So the 23 is the year, 05 is the month, 10 is the day. So if you're on my side of the date line, I'm in Sydney, in Australia. It's Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. And if you're on the other side of the date line, so we're GMT plus 10 here. If you're in the States, you're probably GMT minus something. So it's going to be Tuesday night for you. If you're in Eastern Central Time, around about 8 o'clock, I think. So feel free to jump into the queue. If you like, feel free to drop a comment and let us know where you are from. If you've got a question and you'd like to just post that in the comments, just put a Q in front of your question and then throw your comment in, and then I'll do my best to answer that for you. So definitely don't be shy. I'm keen to have at least one person be willing to come on the channel with me. And if you've had any sort of a near-death experience or an out-of-body experience or anything unusual, anything you might call psychic phenomena that you'd like to talk about, then you're absolutely welcome to come on and have a chat with me for as long as you like. So while we're waiting for someone to get brave enough to come on, I did want to go through some of my favorite books. So I've got loads of books in my Kindle library related to all things to do with the paranormal, but there's a few that I want to talk about today that you may not already be aware of. They're not necessarily all of my favorites, but I just thought I'd pick out 4. So I'm just going to drop myself out of the solo layout, and hopefully this will work. So the first book is one that a lot of people have not heard of, and it's called Vistas of Infinity by Jurgen Ziewe. Now, Jurgen is actually, he passed away a few years ago, but his books are incredible. So Jurgen is in a way, he's a journalist. So he's documented his journeys throughout the other side. So he started off doing a very consistent meditation practice over a number of decades, and then he started to have these out-of-body experiences to realms that will just blow your mind. So if you've got any interest in anything to do with the out-of-body experience and want some real detail on the different kinds of things you can run into, the title is it doesn't really give it justice. How to Enjoy Life When You're Dead. I think that's part of it, but it also just gives you great insight into what occurs in other realms outside of our physical realm. And it's definitely a great read. And it's one that I've read many times over, and I still read this. The great thing about a book like this is if you're trying to induce a lucid dream or an out-of-body experience, then reading material that is about those experiences before you go to bed is a great way to kind of get your consciousness into that mode. And I've found since I started reading Jurgen's books that I've had at least 3 lucid dreams that I can think of that I think have just come as a result of this material being in my subconscious. So that's one book, and I'm just going to flick over to the screen to grab another one. This is another one. Oh, okay, yeah, this is great. I'll just pull up the cover. So this is Voyages into the Afterlife by Bruce Moen. Pretty sure Bruce is still around. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the Monroe Institute and Robert Monroe, he's written a lot of great books in his own right. Bruce Moen is one of Robert Monroe's students, so one of the early students that was at the Monroe Institute, and he learned how to navigate the afterlife. Let's just put it. So Bruce has written 3 books about his explorations into the afterlife, and it's absolutely fascinating. So if you haven't read any of Bruce's books, I thoroughly recommend them. He goes into, as time goes by, he's sort of written these books in a way that, when the first book was really when he was just starting to explore the non-physical realms, and then the second one is when he's becoming much more competent, and the third one is actually, I think it's after Robert Monroe had died. So if for those of you who aren't familiar with Robert Monroe, the Monroe Institute is pretty much the best, or the most well-known and the most respected institute for teaching people how to navigate non-physical realms. And his books are just amazing. So definitely well worth reading that one there. And once again, this is a great book to read before you're going to sleep if you're trying to induce a lucid dream or an out-of-body experience. I found particularly fascinating. Bruce talks about helping people cross over. Sometimes souls get kind of stuck or lost where they are in their own patterns of thinking, and he's done a lot of work basically shepherding people onto the next phase of the afterlife. And it's a pretty wild thing to talk about, but it's definitely one that after you read it, it makes sense. And Bruce has done a lot of great things in that area with helping people cross over. So that's one of Bruce's books. Let's just see if there's anybody joining us. Not yet. I'm still holding out hope. Don't be shy. Jump in. At least drop me a comment and say, I can't see there's anybody watching at the moment, but stick around. Drop a comment. Let us know where you're from. Let's pick another book. Okay. Now, this is one I've only just read. This is by one of our recent guests, Nicky, and it is a great story. So Nicky is a very well-known psychic, as I mentioned before, and this book is about her experiences as a psychic to a degree, but it's a lot more about what occurred to her after the sort of the immense fame that came with her work being a psychic medium. She had a car accident and developed NDE, which I forget it's myocephalic. It's basically like chronic fatigue. There's another word for chronic fatigue syndrome, an extraordinarily painful and debilitating condition where she was pretty much suicidal every day. It's just incredible tale of how she recovered and managed to live with that illness. And for anyone who lives with chronic pain or chronic illness, I think it's absolutely worth reading just from that perspective. And Nicky, as I mentioned, she's a very funny lady. It's very raw. There's a lot of swearing and cursing, and if you don't mind that, it's an absolute goldmine of a read, that book. So that's another one that I'd recommend. And then I've got one more. So I just wanted to go through 4 books today by one of my all-time favorite authors, Whitley Strieber. I'll just pull up the cover. This is Whitley's most recent book, which is called Them. So I first started reading Whitley Strieber's books, I think when I was 14. So I'm 52 now, so 30 years ago. 40 years ago. Wow. Okay, so and that was Communion. I think that was I think there was even a book before Communion that I may have read. And I remember I was so affected by the book, that Whitley's stories of meeting with the visitors and being abducted, that I wrote him a letter, and he actually wrote me back. It wasn't him personally that wrote me back, because even at that stage there was no email, there was no internet. It was a hand. Sent him a handwritten letter, and there was an actual posted letter that came back to say that he had received the letter. He reads them all, but due to the volume that he'd received, he can't reply to them all personally. Anyway, this is Whitley's latest take on the visitor phenomenon of people being abducted by aliens, or whatever you like to call them. And he really dives deep into his own recent experiences, the latest research, the latest video footage, like the gimbal footage, etc. That's more recent ones that have been released by the US Air Force, and it is a great book, one that I thoroughly recommend. If you have if you've never read anything about the whole visitor phenomenon and about alien abductions, this is definitely well worth reading. It's well researched, and I think Whitley's probably pretty much the most respected author in that area. So if you've just jumped into the live stream, my name's Rod. If you'd like to join me in the studio, I'd love to have you. Here's the link. You can just join from any browser or from a phone. It's bit.ly/UC230510. If you've had an out-of-body experience, a near-death experience, any sort of unusual psychic phenomena that you've run into during your life, or you just want to talk about any of those things, regardless of whether that's happened to you or not, then come on into the studio. I'd love to have a chat with you. Don't be shy. And if you've just jumped in, then there's let us know where you're from. It's currently Wednesday morning in Sydney, in Australia, where I'm from. It's so GMT +10. And the other side of the planet, in USA Central Time, it's around, what is it now, about 8:15 in the evening. My intention is to run these live streams every Wednesday. We did have Nicky Allen, the psychic from the UK, booked in for today, but unfortunately her dog has passed away, so we're just going to give her some time to mourn losing her pooch, and hopefully we'll have her back on in a couple of weeks' time. I've got a lot of guests coming up. I think we've got about 9 or 10 guests. Here we go. Oh, Jason has lobbed in. Nice to see you, champ. Did you want to come on and have a chat with us, or are you just sort of dropping in to say hi? I'll just show Jason's comment. It would be great to have a chat with you. I was actually thinking about you the other day, wondering if you've had any more visitations from Michael and how your book writing's going, that sort of stuff. But all right. Well, let us know if you want to drop in. I'll just show the. If you've got time, Jason, and you do want to drop in, then yeah, cool. All right. Well, excellent. There's the studio queue. There's a link there. Theoretically, you should be able to just stick that in your browser and then you can you should enter the studio, and I can let you in, dude. I've finished doing my book reviews, so yeah, feel free to give that a go and jump in. For anyone else who has just dropped in, if you'd like to chat with me live, I'm game if you are. There's the link to the studio queue there in the comments. Feel free to drop that into your browser. If we end up with a few people, you might wait just a little bit. And looks like we've got Jason is coming on in. I can't quite see his camera yet, but let's just see if we can add him into the stream. I'll just turn off that comment. Okay. Looks like I had Jason briefly, but we've lost him. Let's just see. We'll see if we can rejoin. Just a sec. Here we go.
Can you hear me?
I can hear. Hey! I can hear some audio, Jason. But,
how you doing, sir?
Yeah, good, man. How are you?
I'm fantastic, thank you.
That's good. Don't have any camera from your side. If
I know I can't. I don't understand what's going on. It's not letting me.
If you should have a settings button, and as long as you don't have your camera being used by another application, then you should be able to.
I don't. Let me try and let me get it here. It says cam.
Oh, yeah, something's happening.
Yeah, it's not letting me. Let me see here. My cam isn't working by anything else. Hold on. Front camera. There we go. Front camera. Yeah, it says everything's working. It's just maybe it's on your end. I don't know.
Let's see if I've got. Yeah, no. If it was there, I could only edit your mic settings, but I can't really do much from that side of things. Let's just see.
I can try re-entering.
Yeah. Just see. Wait, before you actually enter the studio, you can set up, so you can check your camera and your microphone. And
all right. I'll come back.
Give that a bash. All right. For anyone else who is just joining in live, obviously this is not going to work if you're watching the replay, but if you'd like to join me in the studio to talk about anything to do with the out-of-body experience or a near-death experience or anything, paranormal, psychic related, this is why I'm doing this. Let's get you in and have a chat. Feel free to join the queue. If you prefer to lurk, let us know where you're from. Say hi in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Hopefully we'll have Jason Janas, which is one of our... Jason was actually the first person I interviewed on the channel. He's had a pretty amazing near-death experience as a result of contracting COVID, and he's had a lot of really pretty wild paranormal experiences since then, including some encounters with the Archangel Michael, and he's got a interesting story. So it'll be good. Hopefully we'll get him back in shortly, and we've got some camera issues sorted out. If not, we can still do the audio side of things, Jason, as well, if you want to do that. I might just do... I'll tell you what, while we're waiting for Jason, I'll do one more book. And let's go back to my library. As you can see, I have got a ton of these things. What's another one that I thought was actually pretty cool? Oh, yeah, here we go. No, that's Bruce Martin. No, I don't want that. Let's go back to the library. That's another one that really stands out to me. Vistas of Infinity. There is one, if you're a little more scientific. I think we might have Jason back in, actually. Let's just see. Let's just remove that. We'll go back to the solo layout. Let's give Jason another go, see if we've got camera sorted.
No camera.
No camera. Oh man. Okay.
It's not letting me. It's not letting me do it. I checked my camera on the iPad and everything's working. When I come in here, it's just not letting me go.
Oh damn. All right. Well, that's cool. Listen, the audio is good, so let's work with that anyway. That's cool. So, how have you been, man? What's been going on?
You know, I've just been keeping busy, work, life. You know, staying in the positive, keeping good vibes. Yeah. I haven't had any other meetings with Michael yet. I know it's coming. It happens like every 4 months. The last time we spoke, he said I'll be in touch.
Oh, okay. So he like gave you a timeline for when he'd be.
No, he just says, you know, his normal quote or both times is like, you know, I'll see you soon. Or like this last time he says, you know, I'll be in touch.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah.
I'm just expecting within a couple months. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but everything's good. Everything's fine. You know, how are you? Been watching your channel. Looks like things are going well. Good for you. Congrats.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, man. Yeah, we certainly hit the ground running with your first interview, which is I consider that to be a real stroke of good luck, because typically, yeah, that doesn't happen with a brand new channel. So I'm very thankful for that. It really helps. It's helped, I think, with the process of bringing on other guests, and you can get some more high profile guests if you've got at least one video that's done really well. At least that's in my head. That's helped me with my confidence anyway. So
well, that's beautiful then, man. I'm glad that I could help.
Yeah.
Any questions you got for me?
Questions for you? Yeah, Guy. I surely I will have one. You know what? I do have one. I'm interested. I don't know if I ever asked you about this. I know you have a kind of a practice, you know, a gratitude practice every evening where you kind of thank God and thank that sort of thing. Do you have any other practices for, you know, quieting your mind? Do you meditate or anything like that? I'm curious about that.
You know, I've tried meditation and I can't say that it doesn't work. It's just my mind is constantly going. I cannot seem to settle it down, you know. After my NDE, it has been on my mind like every second of the day. You know, it never goes away. And I am constantly thinking of home. I am constantly thinking of how truly blessed I have been by this. Like I said, I don't know if I said this in my interview or not, that it was extremely difficult immediately afterwards. I was very depressed for a year and a half. And because I relive it every day, you know, I get a lot of questions. People still contact me every day. And, you know, I answer their questions and they're like, why is this life so terrible? Why doesn't God stop it? And I said, God has nothing to do with how we're living. I said, we chose all of this before we came. So so these mass shootings, yes, they were pre-planned by us who don't know what that experience is like. I know that for you and others, that's hard to understand, but we choose these things because the only thing we know is love. And if we only come from love, you know, in order to experience anything that is not love, we have to come here to experience that. So when people choose these things, and I think I said this in my interview, we're all actors and actresses. We're all role playing for each other. So if someone wants to experience this, you know, they'll come to you as a soulmate and a best friend and whatever and say, would you do this for me? And eventually, you know, someone will say, yeah, okay, fine, you know, and you go through the whole facade. Then we come here and we choose to forget. So we go through these things and we like, oh my God, that's just so horrible. And this, that, and the other. And it's not, it was pre-planned. That's why God's not coming in to stop all of this, because this is what we have chosen. So my mind is constantly going, and I haven't found the right way yet to meditate. I wish I could. I keep trying different things because once you meditate and you can learn to really control that, you can have an NDE experience, an out of body experience, if you can close your mind and you can really focus in on your third eye. You can have that experience where, you can leave your body, you can go home. I just haven't found that yet. So,
yeah. So you've had a couple of spontaneous experiences where you've literally been pulled out of your body, right?
correct.
Have you made any attempts to, do that as a conscious thing?
As a conscious thing, it's just like I was telling God today, or Father, when I come home, I said, listen, okay, I've had it with this, this is enough. I said, I'm ready to go anytime you want, I want, I want to come home. And I start laughing because I know he's laughing, and he's like, nah, not yet, pal. You still got things to do. But no, it really depends on, Father, really. We're not meant to have these experiences, and those that do have these experiences have to be extremely strong to be able to live in both worlds. So I always tell people, including you now, be careful what you wish for, because if it does happen to you, your life is forever changed. The person that you were the moment before that ceases to exist, and this new person takes over, and you look at the world completely different because you see the truth. You see who we are. You see how things are really meant to be. And that's at times, difficult, because where you're at on earth here, but then you also know and feel home. And, so I tell people, be careful what you wish for, because if you do get it, your life that you once knew ends. And you have this new person that, when you get up and you look in the mirror, you go, that person's dead. I mean, this is who I really am. And you can see the true beauty in everything, because the truth. That these shootings, that these things that are going on are meant to happen. They're meant to be. That's what we chose. And that's why God, our Father, doesn't step in. It's because it's things that we have chosen to experience. Yes, we choose cancer. Yes, we choose leukemia. Yes, we choose to get in a car accident. Yes, we choose to get run over. Why? People ask why. Well, you're thinking with a physical brain, okay? You have to realize that you're not a physical being. You're an interdimensional being, and that you, upon coming here, plan all of these things with the others that you've chosen to agree to this experience with. And you look at it as, I can do this. This is no problem, man. We got this. And then we come down here, it hurts, it sucks, we're tired. That really wasn't, what I wanted to do. Why did this happen to me? So all the whys come out, and, you're still going to have to go through with what you have to go through with. It's not going to stop. So if you don't face your problems, you don't, you try and run from them, or, try to escape them, they're just going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. The ball's going to keep rolling, but the ball's going to get bigger and bigger. So, trying to tell people that is like, well, that doesn't make sense. Well, of course it doesn't, because you're thinking with a physical mind.
Yeah. Yeah. This is what something that's occurred to me just recently is that the reason why NDEs occur in the first place, like there's it feels like it's like a reminder that you got to get your life on track, but not everybody has that kind of life review either. So yeah, what's your take on why they occur in the first place? I know they occur as a result of your heart stopping or whatever, but you reckon there's something else about them?
Yes, it's again, it's something that you agreed to. So when we discussed in my interview that I really wasn't a very kind or loving or empathetic person for most of my life, when I chose my life and chose to come down here, Father allowed me to be that way. But he said at this point, and I call it mile marker C, he said, if you don't come back by this point, come back to me, this is what's going to happen. Okay. So in order for my coming here and having a contract with Father to experience life on earth once again, I had to agree to that, which I enthusiastically did. And, clearly I didn't come back by mile marker C. And on April 2nd, that was the end of my life, but he knew I would be calling out to him. He knew that I would come back in that moment. And it's exactly what I did. So they are pre-planned. So like I told you before, you just can't incarnate here on earth. It does not happen. It will not happen. You have to stand before Father and give him your contract, and he'll agree to it or not. But when I tell everybody, you will reach these mile markers in your life. How you get to those A, B, C, and D is called free will. I'm choosing to interact with you is free will. So how you get to getting married or having your first child or buying a house or graduating college, those are all mile markers that you set for yourself that you want to accomplish here on earth. And Father agrees to it. Sometimes people come down here willingly, I'm going to hate you. Okay. I'm going to be an atheist. And he agrees to it because he knows that at whatever point that you set forth, you are going to change. And you are going to come back to him. And that is the struggles that we choose. How hard it is in the modern world for you to be an atheist when I would say 90%, 95% of the world's population believes that there's an afterlife or a God or some sort of existence. So you're almost frowned upon and like, how could you live that way? You're shunned. So those are just some of the experiences that we choose when we come down here. But at some point, you will come back to Father. It's just going to happen, So those are just some of the things that we choose. So yes, an atheist chooses to be an atheist. No, God knows this. He's agreed to it. So he's going to allow you to live. And at some point in time, he knows you're coming back. You just don't remember, So yes, they are pre-planned, So like my death was pre-planned, knowing that it would fundamentally change my life, affect you in our interview in your channel, and in how I've affected everybody's life, that I've talked to personally or an interview or who's watched my interview has changed their life. I just can't see it, So yes, it is definitely.
So I've had a couple of, one in particular, Brandon Densmore, who I interviewed a few weeks ago, and his experience, he was shown parts of his future, been in a way that if you don't clean your life up, this is not going to happen. Like there's one where his mother found him dead on the couch, and there was other possible futures where he got married, he bought a house, he had a child, etc., which is actually what's occurred. So I was curious as to whether you had any you were given any insights into some other mile markers, as you referred to them, in your life during your NDE.
No, because I didn't have that life review. Remember, I was off life support, and I was breathing on my own. Everything, was okay. So when I cried out to God, when I said, please don't let me die, I was healthy. I was okay. It was literally, if you want to listen to the Bible, when, they cry out to God, he answers. Every once in a while he answers in person. And for me, even though it was pre-planned, I didn't know it. So to me, I looked at it as a miracle of, divine intervention. He heard me, he felt me, he sees me, he answered the door, and he, did heal me, because I should have, as the doctor said, you shouldn't be alive. There's no reason, you should be dead. You should not be here. And they were amazed. The look on their faces were horror. It's like, you should be dead. That was what I got for, the first couple months after, I went home and came back for checkups and stuff. But my point is, what he was saying is, say you're standing in a room, right? And it's a circle, you could say. And, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock,
midnight. Those are all possible avenues to your life. One might be, like he said, that's going to lead, and you're going to be dead on the couch. You know, you go to 6 o'clock, you're going to get married, have children. No doorway is wrong. It's your free will on which way you want to go, but none of them are wrong. It's just you're going to have different experiences on whatever door you choose, but none of them are wrong or bad, you know, and that's where your free will comes in. You know, if it wasn't free will, God would say, you're just going to go to 3 o'clock and that's the way you're going to go. Well, that's not the case, you know. So when he explained it that way, that's really what it is. You know, you've got all these different doors. You have 500,000 different doors that you can choose from. It's still going to lead you to the same point, but your challenges may be harder, maybe easier, you know, maybe extremely difficult, maybe extremely easy, mediocre. That's what it really entails and what he was trying to convey in that. So none of those doorways are wrong, but, you know, it's kind of like you don't know what you're going to get. So, you know, best of luck. So, and that's what we do every day. You know, we have decisions to make, right? Do I go into work? Do I not go into work? Do I quit my job? Do I find a new job? You know, do I move to Alaska? Do I stay here? All those doors are possibilities to a life. You just don't know what it's going to be. So, and what stops people is living in fear. You're terrified of that change. So people stay put. Okay. Fear doesn't exist. It's up here in your head. So if you get rid of that fear, then all those doorways are beautiful.
So have you got any suggestions for people to help make choices that aren't based on fear, that are more in line with, you know, their, I guess, being on the right path?
There is no right path. They're all good paths. It's just the journey that you're going to take. Okay. Like I said, it could be less extreme. It could be more extreme. It could be less challenging, more extremely. So if you get rid of that fundamental fear that holds you back in everything, you know, people have fallen in love with the material world. I mean, money, cars, the big house, you know, I've got to have money for all of this. I've got, you know, that's not what we're here for. We're here, believe it or not, to have fun, to go on an adventure, you know, to have sex, believe it or not, because we can't have that where at home, it doesn't exist. So to have all of these experiences, and we've crippled ourselves out of fear by, you know, oh, what if I do this, I'm going to be poor. If I, you know, I can't move here. Oh my God, my children. Those that you're thinking wrong. Take that step, live your life, have fun. So you lost your house. Big deal. You can build another one that looks like it, or, you know, have a smaller one. You know, I've learned to simplify my life. I've got rid of almost all my furniture, you know, and when I looked around for the first time in my life, after chasing the wrong dream, like, why can't I have money? Why can't I have a, you know, this, that, or the other thing? Then it was like living simply was so beautiful, so simple. And, you know, I quit chasing the wrong things, you know, and I found living a life out of love is really where it's at. So, you know, get rid of the fear because you're creating it. It doesn't exist. If you're unhappy, fix it in whatever area you're in, your marriage, work, school, where you live, fix it. You know, it's no matter what you do, you can't do anything wrong. It's just a change. That's all.
So I was going to ask you if you had any good messages for anyone, but that was actually pretty good, that one. So I don't know. Have you got any, if somebody does sort of jump in, you know, and fast forward to this point, have you got anything else that you'd want to impart to people?
Yeah, just remember that when you wake up in the morning, you know, God didn't wake you up because he needs you to take another breath. He doesn't. He woke you up this morning because someone out there needs you. Your life is vital to them finishing in their contract here on earth. That's why, you know, we're not supposed to take our lives at all, because someone out there is relying on you to finish their contract, or that's part of their vital to their contract. You just don't know it. So live your life out of love. Look at that person, you know, when you're walking down the street or in the grocery aisle, love them. He or she is no different than you. and vice versa. So when I tell people this, it's just a dream. None of this is real. So if none of this is real, what's there to be afraid of? The only thing that matters here is love. Love one another. But that love has got to come from you first. You've got to love yourself through and through without questions, hesitations, or doubts. Because if you can't love yourself, you can't love anybody else. And that means your children. How can you love your children if you don't love yourself? You don't know what love is. So, and that's the biggest thing that I want to let people know from Father is how loved you are, how unconditionally loved you are. There's nothing on this planet, vocabulary wise, that can describe the love that exists and that you are. So when you realize that none of this is real, it's all a dream, it's the Matrix, it's not real. So what's there to be afraid of? Something that's not real. So live your life, but live it out of love, unconditional love. Love each other. I love you. I love everybody, and just put a smile on your face and be happy and, smile at that person, because you never know. That may totally affect their day, their whole day, and they may affect somebody else, the whole domino effect, that's really it,
Thanks for that, man. Looks, I say, listen, keep shining your light in the world. Yeah.
Definitely.
We need more people like you, brother.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm going to wrap this up. I think it's funny how there's people are still a bit shy to come on yet, but I'm working on it.
You're
really
doing a good job.
appreciate you
I've
coming
seen
on.
your videos. I've seen these people, and just what you do is no less important than what I do, because even though I've had an NDE and you haven't, you are reaching out to those of us who have, to those who are shy, that are questioning Christianity or the religion, and you're putting it out there for them to come to terms with their struggle. And you never know, the next episode or the episode after that, they may show up and have that question and feel that it's okay for them to question who they are and what they are and why they're here. So you're doing a fantastic job, and it's no less important than, my experience. So I love you, brother. You keep up the good work, and thank you very much.
All right. Thanks a lot. I love you too, man. Thanks heaps for coming on. And
Absolutely, brother. You take care.
All right. See you, man.
Yep.
All right. Well, that was unexpected. And Jason Janas, if you haven't seen his near-death experience story, it's the very first video on the channel, video number 1. And there was also, that was when I was determined not to actually show my face on the videos at all. And I've seen put a stop to that. But the very first video is Jason's experience. There was a subsequent one where we had a bit more of a back and forth chat. But yeah, he's a pretty amazing guy, and he's been pretty radically transformed by his experience. So just to recap, I can't see there's anybody logged into the stream at the moment, which is okay. We've got to give it a go. Maybe next week. I'm going to be here next Wednesday, 10 a.m. Sydney time, which is about 8 p.m. on Tuesday, US Central Time. If you want to join me in the studio, you're more than welcome. I'd love to have you on the show. I will from time to time have other guests, scheduled, but I'll let you know in the that'll be apparent in the schedule as well. So I'll wrap it up for now. Hopefully you'll find something useful from the messages from the book review earlier on, or the book reviews earlier on, and the messages from Jason. And that's all for now. Be safe. Peace out.